Which stance is right for you? There's lots of different stances. Picking the one that is correct for you, there's a lot of questions that go into it, like what's your style, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what's the rule sets you're competing in, or is this self-defense? Actually, this is a really stupid question. It's a terrible, dumb question. I think it's generic and just like fluff to make videos about stances. There's lots of videos about stances. Basically, you just watch videos of a guy who fights the way you want to fight and you adopt a stance similar to his, which we'll get into more later. But Toby Klein asked this question. He's a viewer. He asked this question in an interesting way. He wanted an explanation of the different stances, which I'll run through them real quick. But his issue was, and this is more interesting, all the bullshit that he hears that if you do this, then they would just do that. Like if you stand like up too tall, like a Muay Thai stance, you'll get taken down. If you stand too low, you'll get punched in the face. All that's true, and also none of it's true. When you first start training, your instructor is going to like try to make you do what he wants you to do. When a wrestler comes here and they want to start learning boxing and kickboxing, they're always like too far forward like this because they want to get heavy. Oh wait, excuse me. They want to get heavy on that front leg so they can do wrestling shit because they're not worried about getting punched or kicked in the head. Now we add punches or kicks to the head has to come up. If you are a Muay Thai guy, the reason they can stand up so tall is because they're not going to get taken down. And you stay distributed between your legs so you can lift them really quickly for checks and whatnot. And then you got karate guys who stand sideways like this so they can move back and forth and be more mobile and go in and out, like this, and do all those side kicks that don't work and stuff like that. Because, side kicks don't work. But which one is like right? Well, obviously it depends on your rule set. Muay Thai, you probably need to stand upright. Wrestling, you probably need to get down low. But what if you're fighting a Muay Thai guy who's better at Muay Thai than you? And he's just better at standing square and checking kicks and throwing kicks and knees and all that. And maybe you have a little bit of experience moving around more. Maybe your boxing is a little bit better. So let's start with the legs or the feet. Which way should your feet face? There'll be guys that tell you, turn them sideways like this. There'll be guys that tell you this one points this way and that one points this way. I had a boxing coach that always had me point both my feet forward and stand really square. We'll get more into what your body should be doing later. The truth is, it should just depend on generally where you're going to have to move. We did a video recently where we talked about being a little wider and kind of leaning into kicks. And everyone was like, oh, you can never do that because then you'll get chopped in the leg or then blah, 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 whatever. The truth is I need to be able to, move in the direction that I want to move, whatever that means for me. So honestly, a lot of this is going to repeat itself over and over again. I'm going to say it's basically up to you. The problem is you'll have coaches and people giving advice online, or you see commenters, or you'll see videos where guys tell you that there's one way to do things. Let me tell you a secret. Guys that tell you that there's like one way to do things generally don't know a lot about fighting. And that goes I've even known guys that compete, guys that are professionals that think, oh, you can't stand square, or you got to turn this foot this way or this foot that way. None of that's true. None of that is true. There's no one stance. You got to pick the stance that's right for you in that situation. So for me, I'm not too worried about leg kicks because I like to step in and bring my whole self with me and bring my hips up under me. I'm not too worried about them. But if I started getting leg kicked a lot, I'd bring my feet in closer and I would start checking the kicks like that with a more narrower stance. Now, what do we do in MMA? Well, we kind of have to split the difference because they might take us down, but they also might kick us. And they might punch us, and they might kick us in the body, and they might start leg kicking us, but then they might start taking us down again. Do you get where I'm going with this? You'll have to adjust. So whatever he's going to do, maybe he's going to shoot so I get lower. Maybe he fakes the shot and he's coming up high so I have to be able to come up quickly. You have to be able to adapt and change your stance depending on what the threat is. Let's talk about the body, because you can have a square stance, you can have a bladed stance, you can have one halfway in between, but there's different things you can do with the body. I have a coach who stands with a bladed stance but a square body because he can threaten the lead leg side kick and punch with either hands. It's a little unorthodox, but it works for him. Sideways, oh, it presents less of a target. Square, you're presenting too many targets. You'll get hit in the body. That's what they say, but if I'm squared up because I've been driving punches forward every time you try to do anything, that might cause a person to retreat or run away. or try to get away and maybe not attack straight down the middle so much if I'm occupying the middle from my strong squared stance where you can throw either punch pretty hard. Also too, people will say, if you stand bladed like this, you're gonna get like leg kicked over and over again. And maybe you are. If he's leg kicking a lot, maybe don't stand like this close enough for him to leg kick you. But if he goes to leg kick you one time and you cheat that out and throw like a mean, spinning bullshit kick, maybe he won't leg kick you anymore. And if you can get him to stop leg kicking you, maybe you'll get away with doing this more. Or maybe you stand square, he tries to leg kick, you hard check the shit out of it or hit him, and he doesn't want to leg kick you anymore. If you can dictate the pace or type or intensity of the fight, you'll get more options as far as choosing your stance. But do not let guys tell you that if you do this, people will do that. We get it a lot. When we were doing the knees up against the car out in the parking lot, there was countless comments about that. If you lift your leg, you will fall over or get taken down. Like nobody has ever kneed anybody in the clinch up against a wall, cage, or ropes, or even standing out in the open. Like that's never happened. What these guys don't get is that there's thousands of hours of footage of people fighting and different things working. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you pick rock when you should have picked paper. Like you don't always pick the right thing, but that doesn't mean that it was wrong. That doesn't mean your defense sucks. Fighting is more like basketball than soccer. The other team is gonna score points. You're gonna get hit. You're not gonna shut them out. Just because they score points does not mean your defense sucks. So now we figured out what we do with our feet, which is we point them in the direction that's gonna be the most conducive to us moving or striking in the direction that we'd like to move or strike, whatever that is. We figured out what to do with our body, how we're gonna turn it, and that's to present either a smaller target or to maximize on the amount of damage we can do, minimize the amount of damage we receive. The one that gets the most argument is like what we do with our hands. Everyone knows hands up, but that can mean so many different things. Your hands up could be your hands right here. It could be right here. It could be right here. It could be like this. We just did this one and people love telling me that you're going to get hit here if you do this. Well, that's only if he's trying to hit you here. If he's not trying to hit you here, then you can do this. But if he starts trying to hit you here, then you can do this. We recently covered catching kicks from a stance where I was sort of squared up. We were talking about different ways to deal with kicks besides checking them from like a more like MMA or self-defense stance. A guy was saying, well, when you block it here, I should do my elbow lower in case it's lower, so it doesn't go under there. But I'm like blocking the kick. No, I'm just trying to block the kick. I don't need to block lower than that in case it's lower because it might be higher. All right? So don't follow behind all these details and minutia and guys saying that, oh, you can't do this because of that. Because if you see a guy online in a video or even in the gym saying, oh, you can't do that because then they would just do this, the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, that does not mean that when your instructor tells you shit like hands up, bend your knees, don't be flat-footed, which that's a whole, let's do that. Let's talk about whether or not you can be flat-footed or you have to be up on your toes, because that's not even absolute. If you're a springy guy and you want to be up on your toes and move around, you can do that. But if you're a very powerful guy, it's okay to fight flat-footed. If part of your game is to throw hard punches and to make the guy scared to like come in on you too much, you don't have to be as mobile. Where your feet go, hips go, hands go, all that, it all matters. You just pick the one that's best for you. Now, there's a strong possibility that if you're a beginner, you don't actually know what's best for you. And in fact, even if you're a seasoned pro, you're not really objective when you look at yourself. So you might not even know what the best stance is for you. Unless you're sparring a lot with people who challenge you or you're competing very regularly, you might not know what is best for you. That does require input from somebody else. That's where your coach comes in. And I mean a coach, not a wannabe online expert or some guy commenting on your Instagram feed when you post pictures of you training or footage of you training. I mean an actual coach, a guy who cares about you, a guy who cares about your success, wants to see you succeed, has watched enough of your sparring and training to know what's working for you and what's not. So finding the right guy to critique you is really important, and it's probably not someone commenting on a YouTube channel or Facebook video. Now, if you want more fitness tips, self-defense techniques, gear reviews, as well as concepts and principles that make you hard to hurt, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications.